So OpenClaw just dropped their brand new version 4.27. And I don't know if it's just me, but recently my OpenClaw has been a little slow. It hasn't been moving as fast as I like. It's been literally like moving like a lobster. But 4.27 literally acknowledges all the issues that I've been having and actually seems like they fixed them. So I was going to dive in today on this update to let you guys know what to look for and some of the new things that they actually offer that I think is pretty dope. And stay tuned, we have a bigger video coming down the pipeline later this week. Now, just a quick rundown, just in case you're new here. OpenClaw is an open source agent gateway. Think of it like a control panel that lets you wire up a whole roster of specialized AI agents, each one with its own personality, its own model, its own memory, its own jobs, and then you expose it to, a whole unified system. You can talk to it through Discord, Telegram, terminal, web, anywhere, everywhere, pretty much, right? You own the keys, you pick the models, and you have this whole thing built around the idea that one giant general purpose chat box is the wrong shape for real work. You want specialists, a writer, an agent that just writes, a publisher that just publishes, and a vision agent that just sees, right? So let me just say that. So issue number one, and this one has been kind of the hardest for me, and they fixed it. Up until this version, when you set a model for an agent and that model failed, say the GPU host was down or the API was rate limited, OpenClaw would silently roll over to whatever fallback you had configured. Sounds pretty nice in theory. Like, I literally dealt with that today. But in practice, it's a nightmare because you think that you're talking to the agent on the model that you actually want. The log said it as well. The config file said it as well. But under the load, it was actually answering from a totally different model. And you wouldn't even know until your agent did something weird that kind of threw you off and then you went digging. Well, this release notes literally says, quote, corrected fallback behavior for user-selected models to fail visibly, end quote. That's a huge deal. What that means now, if I tell one of my agents to go run on a specific model, right, and say it's local, that's one of the most biggest ones because local models can sometimes run slow. They may fail to a timeout and he doesn't answer, but then some random fallback happens while I think I'm getting him to come back and he's speaking now and I'm getting that same quality of that local model. Well, he's fell back on some sort of cloud model or something else. And then next thing you know, I'm just working with them for the rest of the day and find out I've been running up my IP, my APIs. This is specifically a difference between trusting an agent stat consistently and second guessing every weird answer that I got. Now I can actually verify what model he is on and whether or not it's the one I actually want, right? Now, another one is gateway boot time. Now, look, when you run a whole bunch of agents, a whole bunch of plugins, a memory layer, tool services, Discord, Telegram, webhooks, every restart used to be a full coffee break, right? The gateway would do this whole eager discovery pass on startup where it loaded every plugin's manifest, walked every model catalog, hit every provider, result like 30 seconds of period of startup, maybe even a minute or more, wasted before the system was actually usable. This release moves all of that to a manifest first metadata. Quote from the notes specifically, plugin startup and model catalogs move towards manifest first metadata, reducing gateway boot work, end quote. Plus, gateway startup imports only bundled plugins with activation dot on startup. What that translates to in the real world, when I had to restart my gateway tonight after pushing config changes, it came back online noticeably faster. Like the difference between watching a TV boot up versus picking up the phone. Plus, when you're running this on your laptop or a Mac Mini, that boot overhead was cooking up your battery, your CPU, your GPU, whatever. It's less startup work, which means it's less heat, less power, and more time the system is actually serving actual requests. Issue number 3, and this is a big one, memory bleed. If you ever had an AI agent reference something that wasn't supposed to be, supposedly forgotten like 3 hours ago, the flush prompts that an agent runs internally when it's compacting old context, those were leaking into the actual conversation transcripts. Sometimes you see an agent answer a question, but he kind of casually dropped a reference to something only the memory subsystem was supposed to know about. Felt like the model was reading the actual maintenance log itself. Quote from the actual release on this one is that they kept pre-compaction memory flush prompts runtime only, not in the transcripts, end quote. So in practice, that means that there's just cleaner conversations. Your agent actually responds. Now, it actually responds to his actual responses, and the internal plumbing stays internal. And I was getting a lot of that recently where it would just be like no command, no, like it was random statements from this agent that I had to ask, what the hell are you doing? He's like, oh, that's my internal, like, I don't know, I guess he's just thinking out loud or something, right? It's a weird voice that sounded like a system prompt instead of the agent's persona, and it kind of threw off just the nuance, right? There's also this memory fix search provided resolution, meaning if you were using custom embeddings, like you've pointed your memory layer at your own local embedding model, that resolution now happens correctly. Before this, in some configurations, the memory search was silently falling back to the default OpenAI embeddings, even when you had your own configured. Same thing as the model fallback bug earlier. Things just failing silently to defaults instead of doing what you told them to do. Issue number 4, and this one is one I want to spend a minute on because it runs the thing across the multiple Discord bots and Telegram bots that I've felt pain and that you might have felt pain for, right? Quote, honor approvals .exec/plugin.target bracket .account ID from multi-bot routing. That's in quote. Translation to that, right? I'm just going word for word, but let me bring it down, right? If you got more than one Telegram bot, like maybe one bot is your personal assistant, then another bot is your business assistant, and then they're attached to the same OpenClaw approval request, command routing, and all that. It wasn't like going to the right account, maybe like picking up different personas. You send a command meant for a personal bot, and then the business bot will receive the approval ping, or vice versa. They share the same OpenClaw stack, but they need to stay scoped to their own account. So kind of staying in their own lane, right? Memory bleed and ghosting and all that. Multi-routing is fixed. Each bot now stays in their own lane. Now, I run a lot of bots because I run different bot systems for different businesses that I run, and that's been a big issue. Next, Slack got a bounded socket mode timeout with configurable Pong handling. So connections don't hang anymore. Mattermost stopped inquiring or enqueuing system events as user directives, meaning the bot doesn't think a system housekeeping message is a command from a human and try to act on it. Fixes for all 3 of the major business chat platforms. If you run any of them, that matters. Telegram, Slack, Discord, they all got some pretty big time fixes. Cron jobs. If you run a scheduled task, like I do, it's a lot of the tasks that I run, there's a fix for cron job agent ID inference. Before this, when you added a new cron job via the cron add command, the agent it would run as was sometimes ambiguous. Could pick the wrong agent, could even pick the system identity. Now the inference is correct. Plus a small but huge one for me, cron now supports the --thread-ID flag for Telegram forum topics. Let me take a breath. Which means scheduled messages can land in the specific topic of a Telegram supergroup, not just the main thread. So anyone running a community Telegram setup, this is what you've been really waiting for. Couple security things as well. There's a new opt-in operator managed outbound proxy routing with validation. Translation, if you run your AI gateway behind a corporate proxy, or you want to force all outbound model calls through a specific type of like egress, you can now do that with proper validation. This used to be hand-rolled, like a hand-rolled hack at best, I would say, right? Secret refs persistence to service environments got fixed. So when you store an API key in a secret reference and your service restarts, the key actually persists correctly into the environment. It sounds basic, but the secret persistence is the kind of thing that quietly breaks for weeks before anyone actually notices. And sensitive tokens are now redacted at the subsystem console sync, meaning your debug logs don't have your raw API keys anymore. If you're ever accidentally pasted a log into a Discord channel and then realize your API key was in the line 47, this fix is definitely for you. So on providers, there's definitely a lot of new providers here. They added in DeepInfra is now a bundle provider, OpenAI compatible model discovery, image generation, image editing, text-to-speech, embeddings, and a provider-owned onboarding. So if you've been wanting to wire DeepInfra into your stack as a cheap way to run open source models with no local hardware, it's pretty much first class now. Tencent, Yanbo, and QQBot expanded the channel support side, group chat, streaming, media uploads. If you have a presence on Chinese platforms, this definitely matters as well. And OpenAI got reasoning replay support, meaning when you replay a transcript with a reasoning model, the chain of thought reasoning is preserved correctly instead of it being stripped. Ollama got also thinking validation. DeepSeek v4 got reasoning content backfill on replay messages, which means if you're running DeepSeek, the new v4 model, reasoning model, and you replay an old conversation, the reasoning shows up the way it should. So that's another one as well. And then Codex. This one's pretty interesting. If you're into desktop automation, Codex Computer Use setups like now ships with status and install command in marketplace discovery and fail close MCP checks. Translation, the desktop control loop where the agent literally takes over your mouse and keyboard to do tasks is more polished, better setup flow, validation that prevents the agent from acting if any safety checks fail. And if you've been wanting to put an agent on your desktop, this is the cleanest entry point yet, in my humble opinion. So look, if you're running OpenClaw on this particular update, if you're not running OpenClaw and you've been curious, this is a good time to start because a lot of friction points that we went through in the early beginnings are now getting cleaned up even more. I'm going to put the full release notes in the link in the description if it's worth a read, even if you don't ever read subsystems and all that. Like, just point your agent to it, let him do it for you, right? But be aware, sometimes when updating stuff like this, you can also break other things, right? Updates sometimes can fix things, create new problems, or just fuck everything up. But with that said, if you'd like to get more of these type of update videos, let me know down below in the comment section as always. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. I'm out. Peace.